Well, hello. Welcome to my Hostile to Harmless Fighting Back course. I'm Derek Moretti, and my wife Lisa will be joining us to demonstrate with me. To begin, it's important to know that how bad a human can physically hurt us has almost everything to do with where their chest is facing and how well they can breathe. This makes a person most threatening to us when they are standing on their feet with their chest free to move. That's where they have the ability to use their body the way it was designed and with all its potential power. What's been proven to give us the best odds when it comes to fighting back when there are no weapons involved is to make someone fall and either empty their gas tank or render them harmless while they're still down. The odds are all over the place when people try to stay on their feet and slug it out or rely on self-defense moves. So let's see what it takes to keep those odds on our side and how to practice with our favorite people. And we'll start with what I call shields up. Let's go. So our first mission is all about getting their chest up by taking them off of their feet, which effectively strips many of their natural weapons from them. We do this by pushing, tackling, or charging, and we'll start with the charges. Here we'll use controlled speed and contact with our partner, but we could always come flying in like a hockey or a football player. We can use our own shields as we come flying through this very dangerous zone and try to avoid taking damage from strikes. It's best to keep those shields up until you make contact with their body. Here you can see I'm covering both sides of my jaw with my arms. The top of my head is exposed, but that is the hardest part of the skull, and I'm aiming for the upper chest. When you're brand new to this, your partner can just help you out by standing there as you practice coming in faster and faster, maybe even adding a fake fall. Of course, we'll see shortly what to do once we get them down. Pushing them is a great option as long as we're ready to follow them, and wall behind them makes it even better. We may not have the power, size, or explosiveness to knock them over, so we can become attached to them in what's called a clinch. Here you can see I get both of my arms under hers and demonstrate a few gripping examples. Once we're connected to them, we don't want to lose it. Here's a front clinch. Here's a side clinch. The head can be in the front or the back. And we don't know where they're going to move or where we're going to move once we're connected. So we can end up in any of these spots, but they're all okay. Here's a clinch from the back. The head could be under the armpit or all the way in the back. Again, a few gripping examples. We can also clinch around the legs, and just like the upper body, once we get connected or are fighting for those feet, we don't want to lose it. We could end up anywhere in the front, side, or back. For people with sparring experience and good timing, I wanted to throw this one in there because it's great for ducking under a wild punch. It's easier to tackle or smack somebody when they don't see it coming, but in self-defense, they're usually paying attention to you. So giving their brain something to pay attention to before you charge in is highly recommended. A big, exaggerated movement, either high or low, can grab their attention, or even like a over exaggerated haymaker style punch, or really any distraction to hide that charge. The more still you are, the easier it is for them to see you coming. So acting scared could be a way to keep your body moving and charge right in. Once you're familiar with this system, sometimes you'll see it's safer to put your shields up while you sit down and let them come to you. If for whatever reason we cannot keep distance or we cannot back up, tying up their arms like this with a little bit of a squeeze or pinning of the elbows to the side, we can get that clinch. I'm using my arms like antenna. The slightest movement, I'm ready to move. And as you can see, we can go to either side. Being able to battle for both arms being underneath theirs, known as double underhooks, is a great skill to have, and the first activity in the skill building video will help with that. Now that we've made it through their dangerous striking zone protected, it's time to get to this pinning position known as a cross-side pin or side control. And we do that by sending them on a nice trip. From a good charge, they'll fall, but they'll naturally want to get up, so we want to be ready to come flying in and take this pinning position. And just like with the charges, we should be ready to come in with that tackle after the push. Now, just like if a rope was tied around our ankle and we could not step anywhere with one of the feet, just a little push or a pull in any direction and we'll fall. So we can replicate that rope from any of the clinch positions, eventually getting good at keeping those ankles together or gathering those feet. As we feel ourselves falling, we can always sit straight to the floor and roll like a ball. As you go for this trip, they could turn anywhere as they try to pull their feet out. You just stick with it like a tight rope and get your takedown. We'll get into some details on how to use this position soon. If we only make it down to their knees, we can just use our leg to add some extra rope. Once we get that trip, we can hold on to those legs and almost slither up to that cross-side pinning spot. Anytime we have both of those legs, we can hold on tight and slide one knee to the other side and make it even easier to get to that spot. Here's another great way to get a trip when you're around those knees. Once you reviewed this whole course, you can always use your scrolling tools like pause, rewind, and slow motion, and review any section you wish. For ducking under the punch, a little lean and buckling of the knees, and we get the trip. The skill building activities video will teach us how to use this position, but when you're new to this, it's a good idea to put your arms in different spots when you settle into the side control so you can start getting the feel. Hips and knees are off the floor to offer more weight. If we don't go to the legs and we stay up by the waist, we can slide down just under the hips, pull them underneath us, and get the takedown. Same with the back clinch, a little scoop of the hips, pick them up, step back, and guide them down right into your cross-side pin. Another great option from there is to pick them up, turn them sideways, and get your cross-side pin. If we're not strong enough or choose not to pick them up, we can always use drags. From this side clinch, you can straighten a leg, sit straight down to your butt cheek, and roll right over into that side control position, eventually getting good at not landing on your tailbone. From the back clinch, again a straight leg, using gravity, drag them straight to the floor, right off of a butt cheek to a top position. With body clinches, you might have those double underhooks that we played with earlier, but you might not. Sometimes when you have an arm free, it's great to go high, grab some hair or top of a head, and pull for this drag takedown. This is from the front clinch. Again, a step back is helpful. Here's the same dragging takedown, but from a back clinch. Again, a big step back. As you see from our demonstration, all of these charges, trips, and drags can be done controlled. I didn't pull her hair hard or slam her hard, but you and your partner can go as hard as you can handle. If we get charged or we don't want to hit the ground hard, or maybe we even already are on the ground, we can sit, put our shields up, and get the takedown. Here are a few examples. A training tip when you don't have a coach watching you is to film yourself and watch side by side with our example to see how close we look. A quick way to review this is to treat them as a totem pole. If you're high on the totem pole, drags. If you're middle of the totem pole, pickups and drags. If you're low on the totem pole, trips. We're getting very close to learning how to use this pinning position, but for now, cross your spines like an X or a T and become chest to chest rather than stomach to chest or stomach to stomach for now. Alright, mission 1 is accomplished. Their chest is up. Now it's time for mission 2 and put them into harmless mode. Okay, so far we came through the strike zone protected. We sent him on a nice trip, and we teamed up with one of our best friends, Gravity, and made it a 2-on-1 situation by taking the top cross-side pin. This is a good spot, but we're not as safe as we can be, so we're going to advance to this position known as the full mount. The best times to move here are when they are completely exhausted from your side control, or once you know that your mount skills are better than your side control skills. We don't want to make it easy for them to throw us off, so we call this lesson the green light, so we know when to go. We'll see how to protect ourselves while we exhaust them, but for now we'll start in the cross side and see a couple examples of how to advance to mount. While trying to stay low, we can slide one knee across their hips until it reaches the other side, and then collect the wrists for good habits. Remember, we can give ourselves the green light when they're exhausted or we have confidence in our mount skills. If we want to get there before they're exhausted, a safer way is to inch your way there little by little. This comes in handy when they're still strong and we can get back to side control if we need it at any time. The activities in the upcoming videos will really help you know when to give yourself the green light. Once you've had experience with the skill building activities and the snake charming we have later on in this course, then you can do it this way, which happens to be my favorite. You just switch your legs facing their legs, step over them as if there's a bug on the other side of their hip, and then take your position. Again, collecting those wrists for habits we'll see soon. This video is all about mission 2, which is to get their chest straight down to the floor, which makes them even less of a threat. The 2 most common things that people will do under your mount is try to push you off of them or turn over so they can get up. If we happen to stay with them when they turn over like this, we're in a dangerous spot because they can get up with a lot of power and dump us over their shoulders and head, possibly landing on our face or folding our neck back. But we can be ready for them and take what we call a belly down mount, which is a very safe position for us to be in. They can't strike us from here, pick us up and slam us. They can't even spit on us. Of course, we're going to see what it takes to keep their chest down, and they're pretty much harmless already in the belly down mount, but we'll put them into full harmless mode. When we're new to this, our partner can turn over for us and we let them and try to stay on top. We want to stay as heavy as possible as they get up, unless they're just not strong enough and need our help. But we want to stay glued to their back and back up with them. It's hard to see, but the balls of my feet are touching the floor, and I'm trying to stay as short as possible, shorter than her. Once my feet are in between her knees, I grab under both of her arms and turn myself into a walrus. I'm pushing my hip forward and trying to sit up as much as possible. As I keep arching my back, trying to mimic the heaviest walrus I can, I free my arms and I can put my hands on her back or grab her clothing for handles. The only way somebody can turn all the way over on their stomach is by crossing an arm first. We can always encourage this turn by crossing their arm for them and adding some weight. Ready for them to get up, follow them back, and here's a different version. Instead of just clasping your hands underneath them or underneath their arms, you can always grab their forearms like this. Again, the walrus, hips forward, head up, freeing the hands, deciding how you want to control. The next videos show us what to do when missions fail, and also how to exhaust them so they shouldn't be very strong when they're trying to fight this position. But whether they're weak or still strong, there's an awesome way to make them turn over and get your belly down mount. This isn't typically a beginner lesson, but I needed to throw this in there because it's the coolest thing I've ever learned in almost 4 decades of martial arts. There's several steps, but just use those scrolling tools and give yourself the goal of memorizing this. I pause slightly between each step. You can do the first step a few times and then add the second step, then do the first one and the second one a few times, then add the third one, but keep starting from the beginning and you'll have it memorized in no time. Once you have it memorized, you'll be surprised how well it works against somebody resisting. And this is what we call the harmless mode. It could end here if there are kids involved, or you could put a finish on it like a blood choke. In our follow-up course, the Judge and Jury Jiu-Jitsu, the SAP NAP SNAP formula, we see what to do if we're in a really bad situation, like an abduction or something where there's still a threat after they wake up. When performing a blood choke, you want their chin to line up with your elbow so that your upper and lower arms are pinching the carotid arteries. With about 6 to 15 seconds of squeezing, the blood pressure in their brain changes enough and puts them to sleep. They will wake up in about 10-15 seconds and still be a little groggy for about 10 more. If you're having fun with your partner, of course, let them tap out whenever they want and release immediately. If your forearm is under their chin instead of your elbow, it then becomes an air choke. In a real situation, you can always check to see if they're asleep by lifting an arm, seeing if it falls naturally, or covering their mouth and nose to see if there's a reaction before you let go. Here we'll see what can go wrong with these missions, but how to take advantage of it. The main theme of this course is to empty those stamina bars and take the least amount of damage as possible. We really want them to struggle and think they can push us off and try, think they can flip us over and try, think they can hit us and try. The next 2 videos will show us how to exhaust them and keep from getting hit and bit. But right here, we'll see what can go wrong in that side control. We haven't seen how to control with this pin yet, but there is a chance that you could connect too much and get muscled over like this. If we do get rolled over like that, we can do the same thing back to them, but it's easier if we get our legs as close as we can to each other. So I move all the way over to her hip and it makes her lighter. And to make them even lighter than that, after we get our hips and legs close, we can shoot our hips up into the air as we're pushed with our arms until our body is under theirs and it's like they're laying on a log, easily rolled to the other side. It's unlikely for an untrained person to use this side control pin, but it is very common for them to try to muscle us over like that first example. If that does happen to us while we're using the pin, we can put them into what we call a guard position and become a sticky octopus. Using my arms as bars across her hip and her neck, I can bridge my hips up, create space, and shove her between my legs, locking everything up. We'll see how useful this awesome position is here in a bit. And of course we want to be able to stay safe while we're underneath a bad spot. We'll cover that in our snake charming video coming up, which is actually one of my favorite things to play with. They have 5 snakes we need to deal with, 2 legs, 2 arms, and a head, but we can do that. Now we know the most common things that someone will do under you when you have the mount is try to hit you, push you off of them, or turn over. And as we mentioned before, if they turn over and we stay on top but we're not ready for them to turn into that walrus, as they get up we could get dumped over their shoulders. So if they turn over before we're ready, we'll go cow tipping. When you're brand new to this or you're practicing with no resistance, you let your partner turn over and then they get up either to their elbows or all the way to their hands, and you grab, collect whatever legs and arms you can and tip the cow over. Again, settling in that side control back to mission 1. Chest up. If you're feeling unstable in that mount, a little sneaky way to get your cross side plus a trap is to encourage the turnover with the arm drag. Stay with them, be ready to jump off on time. And this is where we go and collect everything. I'm going to show you a different angle here in a second, but we would use those legs to push. Our chest is on their side, and then we collect whatever we can grab. We can collect anything from a wrist to the shoulder or the ankles to the hips, but whatever's close enough to grab. My favorite thing about cow tipping is usually we can end up with this little trap of the arms, which of course is great for not getting hit. Whenever you're practicing with no resistance, it's a good idea to run through different arm positions and traps like these. It is common for people to try to turn away from you or towards you and get to their stomach to get up strong when they're in your side control too. So this is another great opportunity to go cow tipping. Now we could lose that whole battle for the takedown and end up with them mounted on top of us. Here are 2 ways to escape, and of course we'll show how to practice without resistance first. In the next video, the skill building activities, we'll cover how to battle for these wrists. But for right now, we're just going to collect them both, hold tight, and then lay our leg directly on theirs. Being as heavy as we can once the leg is on there, we'll roll like a log with their arm and leg trapped. We can also grab just one of their wrists with both of our hands and bridge as high as we can. That means lifting our hips as high as possible until they tip over. If they're strong enough to stop us from grabbing their wrists, we can lift our hips high again and make it so that their hands go to the floor, and then we can go get 1 or 2 of them. This only works though when they're sitting on our hips. So if they're high in our armpits like she is here now, I need to push her down on my hips to make that bridge effective. To add some help, we can use the pushing of one leg with that bridge, and we can pull on their clothing. I can't wait till you see how to use this to not get hit, but that's in the snake charming video coming up. When we're new to this, it's common for the person on top's leg to get trapped even without any technique being used. When that happens, we just want to turn into that sticky octopus again. They should feel like there are 8 tentacles completely wrapped around them, feeling like they have to peel you off. Depending on size differences, this one's even better. I'm on one side of her head and both arms are grabbing the opposite side leg or shin. And then I use my other leg to lock it down all the way behind the knee, or if there's not enough room, locking those ankles. No matter how we're using our guard or being a sticky octopus, we want 0 space between us. We want them to peel away from us, and they're going to, and we'll take advantage of that. But if they start breaking away before we're ready, we're going on guard duty. And that means we're going to use our legs, which are way stronger than our arms, and break their balance and pull them down to us. Even if they get as far as getting one leg off the ground or both, we can still use our legs and break their balance. Once we're good at collecting wrists, this becomes even better. If we still have a hold of their upper body, but they get up to both feet, we still want to stay connected so that they're carrying our weight high on their spine. A little bit of pushing on the knee, eventually they'll collapse. Knowing they're going to want to break away from us, we'll use the peel and kick. Whenever someone tries to separate themselves from us in this position, they always put themselves into a kicking distance. We can throw a controlled push kick or even blast our heel in the strongest way a human can actually kick. Now we start to see the common theme. When missions fail, we want to get back to mission 1. So of course we go back to that side control pin, back to chest up. Depending on where they end up, they might be far enough away that they can start getting up. But of course we'll charge right in, go for mission 1, and get that side control pin back. Your octopus might be sticky enough where they cannot peel you off. So commonly, as they try, they'll post up and try to get up, and you'll still be connected to them. So we can go for the ride. This is very common when they can't peel us off, to try to muscle up like this. We can drop an arm and a leg, simply push, and then we're back to mission 1 with their chest up. Here's a better angle. When using that awesome guard where you're on one side of their head and latching onto your shin, it's very hard for them to peel away, and it is more common for them to sit up. You only really need your leg for this, and then your arms stay free. They might try to use one of their hands to put on the floor and stop this motion, but your arms are free to deal with that. So we kick if they peel away, and we say thanks for the ride if they can't. When it comes to mission 2, chest down, one of the most common things is they'll try to get back up again. But again, you want to become that heavy walrus, shoving your hips forward, head up, and wait until they collapse, no matter how long it takes. Something that's also very common is that once they get up, you fall over to the side. Just don't let go, hug very tight with the arms and the legs, and you can still get chokes from there. If they start getting up, the mission has totally failed. You need to bail and go for the takedown and back to mission 1. You can get slammed into walls, the ground, or this can happen, and your head smack the ground. So the bottom line is, if anything fails at any time, it's back to mission 1. Get that chest up. Once we're familiar with what we're good at, we can actually sucker people into doing what we want them to do. Here are a couple over-exaggerated examples, but on this first charge, I offer my body to get grabbed, and on the second charge, my neck. Just wanted to throw this in for the more experienced folks out there, but you don't have to react only to their attacks. You can make them grab you in certain ways with things that you have confidence in their counters. Alright, the last 3 videos, we'll see how to control them, exhaust them, not get beat up, and then see how it looks live with people you care about. Alright, as we went through the system and demonstrated in those first 3 videos, we showed how to do everything with 0 resistance, a great way to practice when you're brand new or want to review things. To be effective with any of it, we have to know how it feels when people resist or fight back. And these following activities are great for giving that feel. They all can be done from 1% to 100% full-out resistance, but the level of experience between the partners should determine that. This first activity helps us get those double underhooks. You can start by just taking turns like this. You can start speeding it up and eventually fight for those underhooks. For this activity, you can start separated or together, and then you can just go for it and have fun by trying to be the first person that can get double underhooks and keep them for 5 seconds. You can always add in the takedown for extra fun. For the side control, we've covered the cow tipping, and we're about to cover in the next video the strikes and claws to the face, but here we'll deal with them pushing us off or trying to muscle us off. People will try to push in all directions, but if they push towards your head, your arms can be there to save you. If they push towards your legs, you can use those to drive back and find any angle you need to get back to chest. They'll push you south, but you have grappling hooks with those arms and things to grab a hold of. Try to make it so your partner feels like they have a huge bag of sand on them. But remember, the main focus is mission 1, chest up. So watch those shoulders and don't let them come off the floor. It's weird at first to keep your arms loose, but remember, if you hold too tight, this can happen. It can feel like there's a lot going on here and a lot to remember. So it's important to have patience and take your time and let people settle into their spots before you start working on the resistance. Here I let her get chest to chest and I give her one problem to solve. I just shove her one way and let her get back to chest. Push a direction, let them get back to chest. Anything you can think of that you think somebody would do to push off, let them deal with it. Try to leave any advanced jiu-jitsu or wrestling moves out, because at first you want them to be able to beat the majority of people, and that's people that have no training. One problem, let them solve. Then of course you can start making it more challenging. You can offer one problem and move away and they have to follow you. You can start not even finish one direction that you're pushing before you get to another one. You can start turning to your side, turning over. Just add problems so that they can solve them. But start slow. Start with one problem at a time and then start moving around more. It won't be long till they're ready to go full out. The newer someone is to this stuff, the stiffer they are, almost like a wood board. You want to try to be as relaxed as possible, and that comes through practice. And I recommend 20-second rounds of doing this because it's very important to see how fast people gas out and how fast you gas out. Here we demonstrate what a 20-second round can look like. You may notice that I tend to stay a little lower on the body than chest to chest, and if you have a partner with a sensitive chest, you may need to make adjustments as well. It's very common for people to turn all the way over while you're doing these rounds, but they're perfect opportunities for cow tipping. This next activity, you settle into side control pin and see if you can put as much weight as you can on them, and then see how long it takes until they quit or ask you to get off. Eventually you'll be good at finding the spots that make people very uncomfortable, make them struggle, and get gassed out quicker. A good goal would be to be able to get them to quit within 10 seconds, and when you're on the bottom, to be able to last 100. The person on the bottom wants to be able to quickly shove or adjust or bump and move the pressure to somewhere that's not so uncomfortable. The person on the top should be looking for spots that put enough pressure onto them where it changes their voice or their breathing. We don't have to be wrapped around that neck to hinder their ability to breathe. And we're finally getting closer to seeing how to handle strikes, bites, headbutts, and claws. Now remember the green light lesson. We could get them out too soon and easily get pushed off. If that happens, it's mission failed, but that's okay. Go right back to mission 1, side control. At first it's nice to give people a reality check and just shove them off of you, letting them know how easy it can be. You'll notice right away that they'll start tightening up, and as you shove them, they'll start holding with their legs and using their hands to try to stop it. This is a good time to offer those single problems again, so you can shove to the side and let them try to hook the neck instead of use both hands off to the side. You You can even let them get in there early enough to grab your whole head with their whole arm. Again, start with one problem at a time for them to solve, and then of course, speed it up. Remember, if you're trained, try to mimic an untrained person. This is the fastest way to get them ready for all your millions of details. Bruce Lee. I recommend spending a lot of time in this one. Let them settle into position, make sure there's no space between you guys, flop around like a fish, and let them solve problems. Until we feel out how low to be or how to use our arms to keep this mount, our legs are going to be our savior. I just demonstrated where it was loose, and this is where they're hugging the hips. Here's another example of what a 20-second round can look like dealing with problems and being relaxed. We want them to think that they're doing something, but really we know they're just wiping out their own stamina bar. In a real situation, whose stamina bar do you want to run out first? Notice the heavier I stay on her arms, the busier she is using them. She should feel like if she lets go, I'll come crashing down on her face. One of the most important skills we can have is what's called wrist control. It's very, very important, and we can have fun learning how to fight for those wrists. And this activity is good, but when they're new, you kind of want to be a little wary of how tight you're grabbing, because about 10 seconds of that, and they don't like how it feels on their skin, they're probably not going to want to do it with you again. So here's an example of how it can look without making it fake. I've mentioned stamina bars a few times now. A grown man becomes as weak as a kid when his gas tank is empty. And just like the stamina bars in fight video games, once their bar runs out, they're done. To make sure your stamina bars aren't the first to run out, play fight a lot like we show in the examples in the last video. Now all that's left is for us to be able to complete these missions without getting hit hard, clawed in the face, or bit. And we can do that with what I call snake charming. We can look at the body as if it has 5 snakes, 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head. When they're standing on their feet, all 5 of their snakes can get us. When they're under our side control, 3 can get us, the 2 arms and the head. When they're under our mount, only 2, their arms. And none of their snakes can reach us when we have belly down mount. That's why this course is all about those 2 missions. Get their chest up and then get it down. When we come flying in, the shield can protect our jaw, but the actual charge will make it so they can't connect very well anywhere else. Remember that charging in like a hockey check, pushing them, or sitting down with shields up are great alternatives. When we're coming in for that clinch, make contact with the body before you get the underhooks, and you can always take it down to the side control for more fun. When we're tightly clinched to that body, we can't just leave our head hanging out anywhere. It's best to glue our ear to them like we're listening for our heartbeat, whether we're in the back, side, or front. If we're stuck to them like an octopus, they won't be able to kick us, and of course we need to send them on a nice trip before they can get away. Once they're under our cross-side pin, slams are gone and knees and kicks are pretty much useless, but we still have their head and 2 arms to deal with. Just like the skill building activities in the last video, you can start slow and offer one problem at a time for them to solve. As they get better, you step up the intensity and add your shoves and escapes. Even when you're playing, people don't like getting touched in the face, and you'll be surprised how fast they start smothering your arms and making it difficult to move. It's important to know the difference between being touched and hit. Even if somebody makes contact by touching you, it doesn't mean that they would have been able to hit you very hard. So So we need to get desensitized about being touched and be able to continue. We are not out of the fight unless we're sleeping. Again, when they are under our side control, they only have 3 snakes to use. Their 2 arms and their head. We can use our entire body to be able to snake charm or tame those snakes. The better we become at this skill, the easier it is for us to strike if we had to from here as well. I recommend turning the audio down on these clips and observing them with no distractions. Here's an example when you're the one on the bottom. It's difficult for people to try to smack you up and control you from under there, so most of the time they'll lose their balance and any kind of stability trying. We can take advantage of those opportunities. Here's a sneaky little bonus in case you're really good at becoming a sticky octopus. As you know, if you hold people tight, they try to peel away or get up. So if you stay connected and throw a few headbutts, they'll usually sit all the way up until they tip over. Being under the mount, we've already seen how valuable lifting the hips as high as we can off the ground is, and it's the #1 secret to not getting hit when somebody's sitting on you. 2 things have to happen. They need to be sitting on your hips, and you have to keep your hips in the air the entire time until you're out. And remember, you can use your knee to help. When their arms are busy saving their face from hitting the ground, obviously they're not hitting you. As your partner tries to touch your face, you'll quickly get used to where to put your arm. The biggest mistake people make when practicing this is they put their hips back down on the ground. When your hips are up, they can only pick one arm off the ground. This makes it easier for us to be one step ahead of them. They'll try to push through, circle around, or back their arm up to punch again. You'll see they'll try to pick their second arm up often, and that helps us because they'll lose their balance even easier. It's instinctual for us to push or to turn over. This is what we must do instead. We can shoot our hips into the air the second they mount us or the second they punch, keeping the hips in the air until we can roll them over. Before we become good at trapping their arms, we might try to roll over too soon and they'll use their hand to stop them from falling. So we can go after their support arm that's stuck on the ground. But when we practice this, we have to be careful with our partner. It's hard to see her wrist, but it could be bent. So when you do this one, you want to make sure that they have a safe wrist position like this before you roll. In a real situation, too bad for them, the broken or sore wrist will be a souvenir. From here, we'd stand up and blast around one of their legs to get that side control pin again. They'll try to get up too, and that makes it even easier for us. The same guard duty we used in the sticky octopus lesson works against strikes as well. While using your guard duty, your legs could pull their face into your elbows. When you're working with a partner, just open them up in time. Until you feel safe doing that, just pull them in and grab them with your arms. And the best thing we can have is that wrist control before we pull them in. Just remember your abs and legs are way stronger than your arms, and they should be what pulls them down. We saw what to do if they start standing up, but remember, if they start peeling away or get some distance between you, they're in kicking distance, and then we can get their chest up again. In all of these guard positions, I'm trying to pull my knees up to my head. We know they're going to either peel us off or try to get up, so don't sit there and get hit. Be one step ahead of them. There's no threat of getting hit from the belly down mount. Just practice being the heaviest walrus you can possibly be. Now it's time to tell them what's going to happen or put them into harmless mode. All right, I really hope you got a lot out of this. If you're curious about what to do after you've had to put an attacker into the harmless mode, or how to keep someone from putting you to sleep, I cover that, plus how, when, and why to strike, and a bunch of other cool stuff that you won't find anywhere else in my Judge and Jury course. That makes up the second half of what I call the SAP NAP SNAP Jiu-Jitsu formula. This course was the first half. Now, let's wrap this up with a final tip. You never know if you'll encounter one or more criminals who are well-trained, armed, or way bigger than you. So I highly recommend looking into additional tools like OC sprays, force-multiplying weapons, dogs, tigers, and of course, friends who have this education in case you ever have to team up. We're smart to learn how to use our body. It's always with us. But it's also smart to copy the pros like law enforcement and the military when it comes to personal protection. They have these tools for good reasons, especially those tigers. Okay, thank you so much for joining me here, and I hope you choose to join me for the Judge and Jury course. Please take it easy, my friend. Bye for now.